So, Brandon, can you tell us little about what you do? What is it you do?
Yeah, what is
Sure.
hair about? And yeah, and that's
Yes,
sorry.
exactly.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'll tell you the brief history of Hera as well. So basically, I was actually working on a startup for, funny enough, long stay apartments in hotels and in corporate housing and so on. And trying to create kind of a platform for that. And we realized that actually a lot of people were writing emails. And what our solution did then was actually forward requests onto hotels and accommodation providers. And we realized that it was taking them sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 days to respond to these requests. And I was kind of surprised, I have to admit, because I've spent my time in reservations 20 some odd years ago. Um, but kind of thought, this whole problem's been solved by now. But I realized then it hadn't. And so we got this idea and said, okay, is there a way that we can help agents reduce the boring, repetitive work in reservations? And so we went out and we tested actually like a common AI with Google and Alexa from Amazon, and realized the use case is working. So you can really do some things to help the reservation agents do their job much more efficiently and improve the guest booking journey. Um, but the AIs that were existing 2.5 years ago didn't really do the job. So we went out and we built our own artificial intelligence platform that goes beyond what you would call natural language processing, or natural language understanding is the proper term, so NLP or NLU. And I'll give you an example why it's a little bit more complex in the hospitality industry. Because imagine somebody says, "Hi, I'd like a double room. What's the price?" So you may notice from that, if you're from the industry, you recognize a double room, they're probably asking for two people. But an AI generally doesn't know this because it can, at least an NLP engine, can only read what somebody wrote. So we actually had to build a level that understood the implied part of the natural language that the person was writing. So many times they'll write something like a double single use. So that tells me as a human very clearly I want one person, single use, but teaching an AI that was a little bit more complex. So
Yeah,
that's the
can
kind of
imagine.
thing that we did to get this travel AI. And then on top of that, we added a part on top that we call robotic process automation, or RPA is the generic term for it. Because it's not just enough to understand, you actually have to go out and start to do things. So what our system does is basically when an email comes into the hotel, a copy of that email is sent to our service. The service reads the email, understands first of all the intent. So, what does this person want? And then, depending on the intent, will extract all of the pieces of information that they wrote: arrival date, departure date, number of rooms, number of guests, and so on. Did I want breakfast? Am I coming with a dog? All of these things. Then it automatically goes to what I call the system of record, meaning the property management system, the booking engine, the CRS, or the channel manager, finds the available rates in inventory. And then when the agent comes back, basically, and opens up the email, so the agent comes back into the story, they see immediately all of the available rates pre-selected for this particular request. So the agent then can select which offers to send out. The system makes a recommendation, but it's a recommendation. And then the system goes out and basically makes sure that all of that required information that's in an offer, for example. And when we first did this, we tested about 20 to actually no 50 hotels, and to see what they were sending as offers. And over half of them were sending things back like just free written. Yes, I have a room. It's €80. Send your credit card.
Okay.
and Now, some were doing, a nicer template where some agent was copying, pasting in a room type and a rate type and so on. And we realized that this is just like a waste of lifetime, to copy and paste stuff into the template. So what our system does is it grabs all of that data and packs it together in a beautiful template. So you can kind of imagine the top of the template is, of course, a little bit of corporate design. Then there is an introductory text, which is templated, but actually the agent can customize that as well. So what you'll notice as I explain what we do is it's very much an assistant for the agent to do their job. Not so much, although there's future possibility of some of these processes, but not so much trying to trick the guest into thinking that it's an agent on the other side. There's still a human there, but they're supported by the AI to do the boring, repetitive stuff. This is our vision. It comes a lot from the fact that I worked for Ideas Revenue Solutions, a SaaS company, for a number of years, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this question of, what should the humans do, and what should the AI do? Because we're in an industry where the human touch is a really important part in a lot of the guest experience. On the other hand, for the last, well, at least my entire lifetime in the industry, we tend to have this thing. I think because staff is relatively cheap compared to other industries, we tend to have this thing. As soon as something just needs to be done, we say, "Okay, dear human, take care of it." Right? So if it's about checking the availability rates and inventory, instead of creating an automated process for that, we just say, oh yeah, go into the PMS, type in the data, check it, and then copy paste it in. So this is kind of where we are in the industry, and as staff is reduced because of COVID, but even as you see, like, people aren't expecting to take as many staff back on and are looking for ways to enable these staff to do more with less. So where a reservation department for every hotel was normal pre-COVID, we're seeing a lot of organizations centralizing that into CROs. So they're doing all of the agents right there, and it's about efficiency, how fast, how quick can I respond. Or in individual properties, you're seeing things like, well, the front desk now has to respond to emails. And this brings its own kinds of challenges because these people are, the most experienced. I've been on the front desk myself, getting those emails. I've done night management as well. And well, I'm originally Canadian, but I moved to Germany about 20 years ago, and one of my first jobs was night manager in a hotel. And I remember 20 years ago trying to respond to emails.
Hard work.
Yeah, I mean, I literally would take an hour or two to try to formulate something, and I'm sure it was terrible German anyway. But
Okay.
happily, a lot of the emails came from North America in the middle of the night, but not all of them. So it's so that's where we try to have this vision of humans and computers working together, where the computers take the boring, repetitive stuff, and the humans do that personal touch stuff.
So that creates more opportunity to upsell and offer different kinds of service or products.
Correct. I mean, so upselling is one of the benefits, that it's really easy to then send two different room types, maybe even two different rate types. Although two different rate types today is, let's say, not as interesting, because traditionally we would think of an advanced purchase and a bar rate or something like that. So, but actually the irony is less is more in the offer world. So a number of our clients sort of went crazy when they first got the ability to send 6 different offers. They're like, oh, awesome. And of course conversion rates go down a little bit. But that's the great thing as well, is that when you do this with a system, you can actually track things like conversion rates. Whereas if you ask a hotelier today or a res agent today, what percentage of your emails get converted, they're like, some of them. So this is where you can really up the game on reservation. So in a way, it's the old story, but it's adding tools to it to make it more compelling for the guest, to make it faster, because guests are no longer, when I started, we had a 24-hour SLA target for responding to emails. And ever since Airbnb, 24 hours is just not what the guest is expecting anymore.
Okay. Okay.
Even if they choose an asynchronous communication tool like email, they're still expecting a fast response.
Okay.
I mean, in our particular part of artificial intelligence, the core of our system is really this understanding of the language, and our unique thing about it, to maybe show you like a little bit where the technology is I'm sure you're familiar with chatbots on the website. Yeah. Chatbots on the website tend to focus on, reducing it down to a conversation where it's asking you a question and it's kind of waiting for a particular answer. I have to admit, although I think there's some good use cases for chatbots, I often get frustrated by them because what I really want to be able to do as a human is just write all of what I'm looking for, and the chatbot goes and does it, right? And this is our vision behind Hera, is to not have to go back and forth with the guest and say, so what date did you ask for? No, most people actually write from the beginning, true. I need this date, this length of stay, and although some of the challenge is that they don't say everything explicitly, in general, they've communicated everything they need to get an offer. And that's the point, to be able to extract it out of all of that. And that's kind of, the cutting edge part of what we do. But the second area of what we do is also this aspect of recommendations. So I mentioned earlier, some of our clients go a little bit wild and want to send too many offers out. Well, there's a great book called The Paradox of Choice. If you're not familiar with it, I really recommend you Google that, Paradox of Choice TED Talk, and spend the 20 minutes listening to that TED Talk. But the core concept of it is, the more different choices we have, the more difficult it is to make a decision. It sounds kind of counterintuitive because often we think, oh, if we have 50 different choices, then we'll get the one that fits perfectly to us. But then we actually have to look at 50 different choices and figure out which one fits perfectly to us without spending too much time. So what often happens is people see too many choices, and you may know this from Netflix or YouTube or whatever, and you go, oh my God, I don't even know what to watch. True. And so you end up watching like the 20th Friends episode or something.
That's happens many times.
and this is what happens in hotels as well, right? So they'll ask in the hotel, and then they end up just taking the standard room, or they end up taking the safe bet, the cheapest one, because that's easiest to analyze. So the whole point is to actually be able to say, look, based on what you're asking for, based on what we know about you because you're a regular guest, or I can check your LinkedIn profile and so on, these are the two, maybe three options that I believe are best for you.
Okay.
And this is this recommendation aspect, and it's something that AI can really, really help with as well, is matching the right product to the guest's needs. At the same time, of giving them a feeling that they have a full view of what's there. So you can still offer the cheapest product and say, this is the cheapest one, but here are two offers that we think will actually be the best one. Here's the one with the, the sea view and so on, because we've seen that you've been in our hotel once before, and last time you booked a sea view. So we're making an educated guess that actually you want a sea view. And if it was for me, that would be 100% correct. If I'm on vacation and there's water nearby, I need to see it from my hotel room. That's just a rule. But there are others who see that differently. So it's really about that matching.
So it's about limiting the products or the services you're offering to the guest. But when is it possible to offer other products that he might want to have? Because that's also interesting for a hotel to be able to offer other products and not just survive by selling the hotel room and the early check-in.
Yeah. So there's another concept out there called the pain of paying. And this is an important one as well. It's brought up by a number of different people, but the idea is to translate it into the hotel industry. What works really well is in your first contact, focus on getting the booking. Yes, you can offer a couple of different things, but don't offer so much that it makes it difficult for the guest to actually book. So the key goal is get the booking. And then there are lots of partners out there that do upselling. So we don't actually do this in our world. There are specialty companies that do this, but they will then take this booking, and it's ideal when they have an email address because this is what they use to contact them. So they'll take that booking and they have an AI that is automatically trying to guess out of all of the additional products I have to sell, what is the one, two, or three products that this person might be interested in adding on to their stay. And the magic of this pain of paying is if I've already booked a hotel room for whatever, 120 euros a night, and then I see 3 days later, or whenever the AI tells me is the best time to send that message, I then see an offer for now get this wonderful spa day or whatever it is for 20 euros more. Well, suddenly I'm no longer thinking, oh, well, 20 euros plus 120 euros, so it's 140 euros. I just see the 20 euros.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say I'm tricked into it, but it feels much easier to just spend another 20 rather than spending 140 to begin with.
Yeah. That's true. That's smart.
Yeah. So actually separating this out is actually quite useful as well. And we can, well, like, we don't do this enough in the hospitality industry, but there are a couple of great tools that actually do that process as well, and they also rely on AI to do exactly those two things. When should I send the email? So what's the time to get the highest conversion, and also what of the product should I be sending?
Okay.
So, any disadvantage?
Well, I'm rather biased, so I don't see many disadvantages.
No,
But I
it's
can share with you,
difficult.
let's say, some concerns that I hear from hoteliers. So the one thing that I hear about hoteliers is a concern about losing the human touch,
Yeah,
which
it's gone.
I totally understand if done incorrectly. So, I mean, and I understand that a number of industries have done this. So, if you think about your insurance industry, I don't know how much experience you guys have had with insurance yet in your lives, but insurance, it seems like they put all the effort into selling you something, but as soon as it's time to actually take advantage of the service, then it becomes very difficult. And these were one of the first guys to implement chatbots and automation and so on. And they did it, it feels like, in order to protect their customer success teams from humans, right? So it's like they built it up with a wall so that you have to jump over these AIs in order to get to a human. And this is something that hoteliers do not want to do. Um, and so there is sometimes like an internal fear of using artificial intelligence because they think that the use case that the insurance industry did is the use case that's going to be the one in the hospitality industry. But it's all about how you implement it and what you do. For us, it's all about improving the guest experience rather than trying to protect the humans, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So there is certainly an aspect that there will be some processes that can be automatically managed. For example, one is we still have in the hospitality industry a lot of booking notifications from partners. So traditionally, we would have a channel manager that would take care of, the booking notifications. It shows automatically then up in my property management system. But with a lot of tour operators, they just send me an email, and as a res agent, I need to type it in. That's the kind of thing that can be fully automated without problems, because it doesn't matter to the human on the other side of that how the data got into the system. It just has to get there and get there correctly and in a timely manner. Whereas when you're talking about, for example, a 5-star booking request, then you still want the human in there to customize the message and give that human to human feeling. And so the system will help the agent do their job rather than, take the place of the agent. So it really depends on the strategy of the hotel and the approach. But in general, this fear of losing control of the AI is there. But that's a normal fear. I'm often out there reminding people, well, look at how much AI we actually have in our world already today. Like Google is powered by machine learning, right? So
Yeah.
your results are slightly different to my results when I Google something, and it's because Google already knows what I want. There's no way we could have a human doing what Google is trying to do. And we're comfortable with that, but because we've gotten used to it over a number of years. So I think we'll have that kind of similar trajectory in the hospitality industry. But I had a long conversation once with somebody from a luxury hotel chain, and I thought it was a great example of the hospitality industry and kind of how we interpret service. And this one was for 10 years, they had as the number one negative feedback, 5-star hotel, 10 years, consistent, the same negative feedback. We want a coffee machine in the room. And they pushed back and they said, no, you don't want a coffee machine in the room, stupid guest. What you want is you want a human to bring you a perfectly created, specialty coffee to your door briefly after you've ordered it. And the humans just said, the guests are like, no, that's actually not what I want. I want to wake up, not have to talk to a person, push a button while I'm still in my underwear and get a halfway decent coffee. That's what I want. And yes, there are some people that want a perfect cappuccino, and that service should still be there. But adding the self-service cappuccino machine did not take away from the other service. In fact, it improved it, and they eventually did it, and they, were able to reduce that negative comment. They eventually did it, and they realized that actually the people who were ordering coffee were even happier with the coffee that they ordered because it arrived faster and it met their expectations. So the guest was able to then self-select: do I want to use this automation, or do I want to have customer service delivered by you? So I think that's an important way to think about it. We cannot use AI as a barrier to customer service. We have to use it in intelligent ways to improve customer service.
Does HERA create an opportunity to follow up those customers that are insecure and doesn't go all the way to buy a service? So can make HERA make the opportunity to a salesperson to follow up and call and maybe get that insecure customer?
Yeah, so that's a good example of something that's technically possible that a lot of hotels decide not to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it kind of surprised me a little bit. On the other hand, I've never received a follow-up message from a reservation department, so it's not part of their standard operating procedures. So they end up not focusing on this. But technically, it's very easy to then say, okay, if they haven't clicked on the email in 24 hours, you send another one.
Okay. And then does HERA have anything to do with feedback from the customer afterwards to get some information about what was good and what wasn't good and apply that to the next cell?
Yeah. So there's two levels to this. There's explicit direct feedback, and then there's the implicit feedback. So the first level is, and particularly when we were in our proof of concept phase. So we started with 4 hotel chains across Europe, where as part of that proof of concept phase, we actually got the hotel's permission to reach out to these customers, these guests, after the fact and say, okay, how did you like it? We tested a number of different things. We actually even tested some fully automated messages. We tested, saying, hi, I'm a bot answering your question. And we were able to figure out a number of different things based on that. First of all, we gave everyone the opportunity to say, if you never want an automated message, click here and it will never send you an automated message again. We had 2 people out of over 1 million offers that we sent that clicked there. So people, did not seem to very often be annoyed at automation when we did it. But the main feedback in the explicit world was, positive surprise when we were doing fully automated type things at how fast it goes, and how quick the answer can come. The implicit feedback is perhaps more interesting, because what we did was we did a lot of what you would call multivariant testing, usually called A/B testing, but with more variants. And so we would use different email designs. We use different formulations of writing cancellation policy and so on. Because if you've ever worked in the reservation department, sometimes you put a lot of effort into writing then all of the information, and then they write back and they go, so what's the cancellation policy? You're like, it's right there. Like, just read.
Read it, please. Read it.
On the other hand, we've all been there, right? We've all read something and gone, oh, I didn't get that. So, this is one of the things we tested a lot to see, how do you design the offer in such a way that, 1, it looks good in all the different email clients, but 2, that the human actually gets the important information and doesn't send back a whole bunch of questions back with information that's actually already there, just apparently not in a way that the person's reading it. So we use that A/B testing or that multivariant testing to improve the structure of the offers so that it's clean and clear, and we've been able to reduce the number of, let's say, unnecessary questions. So we're able to track those things like, what percentage are clicked on, what come to the booking page, what percentage then convert on the booking page, and so on.
Okay. Do you have any other question, Carlos?
No, all my questions have been answered. So
okay.
Thank you very much.
But I have one last question. And what does the future look for Hera? What is the obstacles? What do you think is the future for Hera in the hotel industry?
So, what are the obstacles? So the obstacles always in hotel tech has been this for a long time, and probably will still continue to be this, is integration. So, a significant portion of my day is dealing with the commercial aspects around integrating to other partners, which is rather crazy. And I mean, this is a solution that benefits other partners by getting more bookings over their systems and so on, depending on how the hotel implements it. But it's still a lot of work to get people, on board and convincing them and so on. And I'm an experienced guy. I've done this for 10 years on integrations, and I know the people. I mean, and so I'm often very sad about the startups out there or the young companies out there that don't already know the integration game, because the problems are usually not primarily technical, but they're commercial, and that's a huge, big problem in the industry. I basically wrote a business plan and got 25 million to work on solving this problem. Now I let some other people then spend that 25 million and work on the solutions, which unfortunately are still not completely re-envision the hospitality industry in its integration way. But you can definitely see that Oracle has moved. They're talking now about OHIP and so on. But I digress into integrations. Integrations are the big challenge. So where I see Hera basically going in the midterm is picking up voice capabilities. So, for example, if you're calling a hotel, so just a couple of numbers for you. Across Europe, 20% of room nights come from emails. About 19% comes from voice. About 26, 27% comes from online travel agencies. So although online travel agencies are big, they're the number one channel, we're still getting more business direct to the hotel via email and voice together than other channels. So I believe that handling these efficiently is going to be still a big challenge into the future. So I think Hera will go into a model where Hera is basically supervised by reservation agents, and every organization will have a different level of automation that suits their particular needs. Would this be just like preparatory automation for the res agent, or will they turn on things like automatically handling booking notifications, perhaps things like frequently asked questions, having these automatically answered by the AI? This is, I believe, where we will get to. But every organization is going to make its own decision how much they will give their automated staff and how much their human staff need to take care of. On the voice side, I see a possibility of, for example, first, as a first step, doing that kind of call routing type thing. So while you're waiting for a res agent, well, tell me what you're looking for. What's your intention? Okay, I'm looking for a booking. Great. What day? Okay, and then have that information already checked by the time the agent comes on, and then they can pick up that sales conversation. In fact, I see as well a world where while I'm having that conversation, the agent doesn't have to type that in. It will just pop up on their screen. So if the person's saying, "Oh, I'm looking for, I'm thinking about a stay on the 22nd of July," then that's automatically popping up on the screen the available offers, so that the agent can again focus on the person rather than dealing with the systems. I mean, I come from a world, you probably don't know it anymore, but I used a PMS called Fidelio 6. And in the top corner it was "I love Fidelio," and I, like all of my colleagues in both reservations and front desk, we could check someone in or create a reservation without losing eye contact. So we could touch type and we could tab to every section of the mask and type in the name and all of it. And so I would hold eye contact with anyone I was checking in. As soon as Opera came along and we started using mice, well, then you end up, and this was more when I was then outside of hotels and more as a guest, you would end up with this kind of thing. "Okay, sir, could you tell me, yeah, okay, your reservation number? Yeah, great." And I mean, I think that was a step in the wrong direction. So, it's actually, systems should be there to get out of the way of the human to help them do what they need to do. So I think an AI, a voice AI, listening in on the call and then automatically showing the relevant offers, this is kind of magic. I think there will be a world in some point in the future where you can even walk down the street with your WhatsApp or whatever it's going to be, WeChat, or maybe it's Telegram or whatever new Clubhouse, who knows, whatever new app it's going to be. But you walk down the run, you're like, "Dear hotel, I need my room for next week, Monday to Friday. Please send me a confirmation." Beep, bing, it goes across, gets processed, and a confirmation is sent across. Thanks, Brendan. Great to see you again. Here's your booking confirmation. How much of that is going to be an AI handling it, and how much is going to be a human? There will be a mix. It's going to be teamwork in the future, but in the end, it's going to be about improving the guest experience so that I don't have to type the stuff in. I mean, no offense to booking engines, but no one was born on this planet going, okay, great. What I really want to do is type my name into a booking engine, type my arrival date and departure date. Anyone who's traveled enough before has stood at some airport, at some hotel, realizing, oh damn, my booking is for tomorrow. You know, like
Yeah.
I've got one in my brain. I remember I was flying from Pisa to London, and I showed up at the airport, blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, sir, your flight is for tomorrow evening. I'm like, no, I have a conference tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Um, and this was because I made a mistake. It was me. I have to admit, it was me, and I clicked on the wrong damn date. Now, I don't usually say the wrong date when I'm saying it. And if I'm typing it myself, I don't type the wrong date. It's only when I'm forced to come to the computer and use its input. And the whole point of a form or a booking engine is so that the computer knows explicitly, okay, this is the arrival date, this is the departure date. That's not how we humans want to communicate. We want to say, so I want to arrive on the 22nd and I'm leaving 3 days later. Right? That's comfortable for us, and that's how we want to communicate. So I believe actually a lot of these tools will come towards the guest and basically let the guest be themselves, but improve the service around it. And I think, in sort of in summary, the hoteliers that see that vision and truly put the guests first and say, actually it's what the guest wants that is really the point, not my own personal definition of luxury. For me personally, it may be a cappuccino delivered by a human, but for 75% of my guests, it's actually pushing a button and getting a cappuccino. That's maybe not quite as good, but I didn't have to speak to anyone to get it. So, doing really what the guest is looking for. So I think AI will change that a lot. Um, of course, it will also do a lot in revenue management as well, which is, again, a solution where it's helping the hotel do a better job and helping the human who is a revenue manager do a better job. And I've said this for years and years and years. I don't believe any revenue management system will ever completely replace a human. It just won't. You still need the human to analyze the one-off things and so on. But anytime you have a lot of data, AI is going to do that part of the job better than a human over time. But there are unique situations. I mean, this year, no offense to my revenue management colleagues, but this year revenue management systems are not as automated as they could be. They have a little bit of a problem with the different pickup paces and so on. So we need the humans to fill that gap. And the same thing is going to be in my current area, reservations. There will always be humans in that process. Are they going to be doing boring stuff? Hopefully not.
But why do you think the industry is it fear, or is it a money thing that it doesn't take this new technology and use it as an important tool after the corona and everybody is hurting?
So, I think it's a number of different things. I mean, first of all, I would say that Corona has, and I have to kind of careful with this, but Corona has helped our demand. So, there was a joke at the beginning of the Corona crisis. What helped your digitalization strategy? My CEO, my CTO, or COVID-19? And the truth is COVID-19 has, driven the digitalization strategies in many companies, and not just the hotel industry. I mean, we're all on, conference calls and so on. We've been doing this as a company since we started 2.5 years ago. Actually, some of our team have never met each other in person. And this is, long before COVID we were doing this. So it's it becomes possible once a discontinuous change happens and people open up their minds and say, okay, I've got much less to lose. So this feeling of nothing to lose is what kind of enables people to invent the future in a greater way. But what holds people back? First of all, I would say one more book recommendation. Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm. This one you can actually Google and get a free PDF version of it, because the original version is over 30 years old. You may have heard it already. If you've heard the term like visionary, early majority, late majority, laggards. So they usually talk about this curve of technology adoption. And Jeffrey Moore wrote about this and basically said it's every new technology's job, or the companies behind these new technologies, to focus on these early adopters and the visionaries, because these are the ones that are open to doing new things, changing new things, and trying them out. And there are simply a bunch of people who, in the early majority, they don't want to be guinea pigs. So they're never going to, no matter what product it is, they're never going to adopt something that's relatively new until they've seen their colleagues in other properties try it successfully.
Nobody wants to be the first one.
Exactly. So, I mean, we sometimes in the tech community or the hotel tech community, like, say, oh, hotels are laggards and so on. It's not really true. The truth is there is a whole, variation of some hoteliers that are very innovative and some hoteliers that are very, in the laggard section. And to be fair, the reasons why people are, in the hospitality industry, the laggards, why they are the laggards, is probably because they got some interface that sucked and it was really hard to implement the technology, and they had projects that weren't successful and so on. So they learned this behavior because of some unfortunate crap that happened in the past. So I mean, it's like anything. There is a process to adoption. Now, I do believe that this time has allowed people to change. But in the end, it's like anything that is completely new. And I mean, we do something totally new. There is, here's maybe not quite the right word, but there's a lot of questions. They want to understand how it works. And this is why we focus on a tool that helps the res agent do their job, rather than a tool that just automates from the guest directly. Because this gives the hotelier the control to supervise and use the AI when they need it, and does allow them to reach efficiency and so on. But more importantly, it allows them to focus on goals like, I need to drive my own direct business rather than everything via booking.com and so on. And that's my biggest concern for hotels right now, to be honest. How do you get business for the future? I mean, to at least pickup pace is really short. But we have this horrible problem that we need staff in the hotels long before the guests are actually going to arrive. So if you're reopening, you need to invest in the staff to sit there and wait for the phones to ring, but also the sales staff to get them going. And it's a tough job to just, spend that money and have people sitting there. So if you can do it on the skeleton crew model that a lot of people are doing, and then have technology help you scale that and so on, then it does work really well. So yeah, I mean, I think, and I actually think in total, we give the hoteliers a bad reputation on technology, but actually look at stores. I mean, look at regular stores versus hotels. How many hotels do you know that don't have an online booking engine? Not that many left. I mean, there are some, but there's not that many left in developed markets. So how many shops in your city center don't have an online presence other than a website.
That's true.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that the hotel industry is way behind. We're the leaders, guys. Like we may be a little bit behind the airline industry, but that's because the airline industry is a number of just large companies. So it's much more rolled into large companies, which is more conducive to technology investments. In our structure as a hospitality industry is actually much more diverse, so it makes sense that we're a little bit behind the airline industry. So I think we're actually quite innovative as an industry. Actually, we love to point at the laggards and say, look at how far behind they are, and there are ones. I mean, I heard a number that there's still a bunch that haven't interfaced their booking engine into their PMS. So this is definitely laggard territory in my world, but I don't think you can say it for the industry in general, to be honest.
Okay. But
despite the fact that we have bad interfaces.
Okay. Are you happy, Carlos?
Yeah, I'm more than happy. It was really
me too.
interesting everything you said and how you work and how the idea come, and it's amazing. I'm really surprised.
So thank you very much, Brendan.
You're
for your
most
time.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope it was useful, and I hope you got what you needed.
It was really helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and have a nice weekend, and take care, okay?
Thank you, wonderful. Have a great weekend, and good luck on your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, ¿qué tal?
Aló, señor.
Ay,
¿Qué le parece?
Bueno, muy bueno también, tío.
Es otra forma de ver una solución un poco diferente utilizando otro tipo de información.
Exactamente, pero sobre todo lo que más me gustaba era eso, que lo más importante era la experiencia del cliente, ¿no? El get up level, sí. Sí, no, muy bueno, la verdad.
Allá, en el momento que ellos empiezan a utilizar